What's up everyone, EJ here, and welcome to another video on the I Am Project. Today, the topic is the case for Christianity as a cult, a critical analysis. Yeah, we're going spicy. Might be controversial, but it's reality. So let's talk about what makes a cult a cult. Well, first, it's absolute truth claims. The belief that you have exclusive access to reality. Critical thinking, it's discouraged. Questions get met with dismissive answers. There's fear-based control. You step out of line, question too much, try to leave. There's eternal punishment. Your identity fuses with the group. You can't tell where you end and the belief begins. And it's isolation. It's echo chambers that reinforce one single worldview. Now here's my question. Does this sound familiar? Because I lived it. Did 3 church services a week as a kid. I absorbed these teachings before I could even critically think about them. I accepted it as reality without question. Because that's what you do when you're a kid. Authority figures give me the answers, right? They tell you what to believe and you kind of just go with it. But those answers, they just didn't hold under scrutiny. And when everyone around you believes the same thing, questioning feels impossible. And here's what I realized later. I was mistaking the map for the territory. I confused the religious framework with the actual reality. Now, look, I understand that Christianity has valuable teachings. I think a lot of my morals and values still come from Christianity. And it's useful. I'm not saying it isn't, but when you treat it as an objective reality instead of a philosophical tool, it's when it can become a prison. And here's the thing: it's one of many spiritual traditions making the exact same exclusive claim. They can't all be right. The control mechanism. So how does this system keep you locked in? Let me break it down. First, there's intellectual suppression. You ask a question, and what do you get back? It's just how it is. You don't understand. You're too young. Have faith. Sounds familiar to me. I questioned everything: tattoos, if you can drink alcohol, theology, existential questions, all of it. And every answer I got was just empty, low substance. That told me something important. When people can't genuinely engage with your question, they're being defensive, not confident in their truth. Then I noticed the curiosity deficit. The lack of curiosity and open-mindedness among the people around me was striking. And there was a pattern here. Well, there is a pattern here. Religious rigidity correlates with limited exposure to science, history, and comparative religion. The system actively discourages the tool that would expose its limitations: education, questioning, and critical thinking. But the real control, that's psychological. Your beliefs become your identity. It's not just something you think, it's who you are. So leaving doesn't just mean changing your mind. It feels like destroying yourself. I can attest to that. Even though I wasn't super religious, but I can't imagine the people who are super religious might feel. But that's what I can compare it to. I could tell you from experience, my identity was ingrained in this belief in a way. And this belief that let me reread that. My identity was ingrained in this belief that letting go was incredibly hard. Even now, it can be difficult. I hold a lot of values from Christianity. It's very useful. That's not because the beliefs are true. It's because the programming runs deep. And then there's the emotional manipulation. Fear keeps us in line. If questioning triggers fear or hatred, you're not protecting truth. You're being controlled. Guilt and shame prevent you from exploring alternatives. When I finally left, I experienced what people leaving cults experience, I imagine. The depression, anger, and a feeling of betrayal. And that societal isolation, that's real too. Watching friends and family stay stuck while you're, finally see clearly that kind of creates this painful separation. Those who leave can see what those inside cannot. I highly recommend Plato's Cave. That kind of explains it, at least to me, in my point of view. It's a good way of explaining it. My awakening. Now we're gonna get weird, but let's do it. So what broke through me? It started with something I can't explain. When I was about 8 or 9, I had this experience where I saw what I can only describe as a gray alien. I filed it away as a dream for many years. I don't anymore, but that seed of questioning, it was planted. And regarding this topic, I hope to, hopefully in the future, dive into it. Because once you have an experience that doesn't fit the prescribed narrative, your perception of the world fundamentally shifts. Then came the education. The more I learned about science, history, the more cognitive dissonance I felt. It's like the cup shattered. Your belief systems can't contain the new information anymore. There is a reason education and questioning go hand in hand. But the real breakthrough, consciousness exploration. My first psychedelic experience, everything just clicked after. Now, I won't promote the use of it. I would just say that it's a useful way of exploring your consciousness. It's a good tool. That's all I'll say. I had a direct experience of expanding consciousness, and it revealed just how constructed this religious reality actually was. That was my awakening moment. The realization that I've been deceived my entire life, and suddenly all the truth that had been hiding in plain sight became obvious. That only happens when you step outside the system. Now the path forward, right? What do we do? So how do you break free? You start by reframing what religion actually is. It's not reality. It's a tool. People like Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, or any spiritual teachings, or guru, whatever, they're valuable teachers. You can get valuable insight and lessons from it, but it's not exclusive. They're not exclusive truth holders. There's a critical distinction here. You can use teachings as guidance without accepting them as literal reality, and you have to accept complexity. Countless traditions make identical exclusive truth claims. They can't all be exclusively correct. I think of it this way, right? Believing any one religion is reality is like trying to put the entire universe inside a cardboard box. You can't do that. Try it. Reality is so much more complex than any single framework can contain. The key is personal investigation over inherited beliefs. I looked for myself. That's the antidote for indoctrination. When you see for yourself, you don't need faith in what others tell you. Your own investigation experience becomes your authority, and you make curiosity a practice. I can tell you, continuous curiosity and searching for truth has brought me more peace than any dogma ever did. Truth seeking isn't a destination, it's an ongoing practice. And if something is actually true, it can withstand scrutiny. Here's a test that you can run right now. The fear test. Does questioning produce fear or hatred in you? If it does, you're experiencing control mechanism. You're not protecting truth, because truth welcomes investigation. Only lies need protection. I'll say that again. You're not protecting truth, because truth welcomes investigation. Only lies need protection. All right, breaking free. Let's talk about what personal liberation actually looks like. First, you have to acknowledge the grief. I felt I fell into depression. I was angry because I realized that I've been lied to my entire life. That loss is real. Losing worldview requires genuine mourning. Your anger at the deception, that's normal. That's healthy. When you then you reconstruct your identity. You separate your self-worth from your religious affiliation. You build your identity on new foundations: curiosity, honesty, direct experience, and continuous growth. And understand this: the difficulty you feel letting go, that's evidence of programming, not evidence that that belief is true. Also, find community as well. Connect with others who have left dogmatic systems. Seek out community that values question over conformity. Now, what about the people still inside? What do we do? What do they do? This is where compassion matters, or I guess what can you do for them? This is where compassion matters. Remember, you once believed too. Looking back, I was so angry that nobody around me could see what I saw. But that anger, it isn't healthy. You know, that type of anger, at least, it isn't healthy. Anger is understandable, but it's not helpful. So plant seeds. Don't force anything. Be subtle. Direct confrontation just triggers defense mechanisms. Ask questions instead of making declarations. Share your journey without demanding others to follow. But here's the hard part: accepting limitations. Some people will never question, and that's okay. It's sad, but it's okay. Your freedom doesn't depend on their awakening. You know, this self-discovery journey is a lonely road, and you know, as much as we want to bring people with us, we can't. But here's what I'm really inviting you to do. Simply question and investigate for yourself. Don't believe me. Investigate for yourself. Test it through your own exploration. Once you look into consciousness and explore your own, you'll see for yourself. There are methods: meditation, psychedelics, used responsibly and respectfully, contemplation, and studying consciousness itself. But direct experience, that is the only reliable teacher. Okay, I'll say that one again. But direct experience, that is the only reliable teacher. Be your own best teacher. And in closing, here's the truth about control. Christianity functions as a cult when it demands to be seen as exclusive reality. I'll even say this: thinking, well, it's not a false claim, but it's taken literal. Is the case here. And you know, when someone says Jesus is God, well, in a sense, we are all God, but thinking only Jesus is God, that's a false claim. It's a valuable tool, but it's dangerous as a prison. Again, and this patterns repeats across every dogmatic system. There is freedom in uncertainty, right? Not knowing is more honest than false certainty. And peace comes from curiosity, not from clutching inherited beliefs. So here's my final call, at least. To those still inside, you have permission to question. To those exiting, your grief is valid. Peace is waiting for you through continuous exploration. Trust me from personal experience. Keep going. It's tough, but keep going. And to those already outside, keep investigating. Truth reveals itself to the genuinely curious. And one final thought: reality doesn't need your belief to exist. Truth doesn't fear question. So if your worldview requires you to stop investigating, you're not in reality. You're in a cult. And that's it for today, guys. I hope someone out there is able to grab a little bit of this. And don't believe me. Investigate for yourself. Know you are loved. And until next time.